Doodlebud here. Check out the pen right there in the center. This is a new old pen I picked up. It is in need of some restoration, but what we got here is best as I can tell. This is a 1930s Parker Duofold Senior Deluxe fountain pen, and this is the Streamline. The color, I believe, is the black and pearl modern. So I got a lot of work to do in this pen. It seems like it's in reasonable condition, but it is going to need some TLC. I guess it was about 6 months or so ago that I found this beautiful Schaefer PFM version 5 and did a full restoration on this pen. And this thing is just super sleek, really gorgeous, lovely writing pen. And I've heard about the Parker Duofolds. I know you can get the new ones as well. They just didn't do it for me. Plus, they're mega expensive. So I found this old one and I thought this looks pretty cool. I think we can give it a little bit of a shine up. So we got some stainage going here into this part of the pen body just above the section there. It is going to need to have the filling system replaced. Everything comes off nicely there. This is a button filler, but there should be a bit that comes out the end here, and the button's all kind of gnarly and all gooed up in there as well. So this is going to need some work to take it all apart. Probably have to apply a little bit of heat because there'll be some adhesives in here as well. But it's got the, we dropped it there. Don't worry, the nib needs adjustment. The tines are kind of goofed up a bit, but it's got this Christmas tree feed, which is pretty slick as well. So some unique things about this pen. It's vintage and it looks cool, but it's also a bit of a larger size pen. So that's kind of appealing to me as well with these vintage pens, having ones a little bit larger than some of them that can be quite small. Honestly, now it's just getting down to it and taking this pen apart. I'll record what I can. You can follow along. There will be much better videos online. Check out Glam Pens. I'll probably just be referencing him quite a bit and wherever else I can find online. But hopefully this will help out someone who maybe has a similar pen and can follow along, and let's see if I can do a semi-okay job. So here we're just going to take the pen apart and see what we're dealing with. First part is take out the nib and the feed. I use these little sticky bits here. They're from my toolbox. You can get them for lining drawers and stuff like that as well, maybe your cupboards. You know, you can see some pretty good goo on there. Now to get the section off camera, I had to use some heat to really loosen up. This sucker was tight. This was probably 30 minutes at least to get that off to this point as well. You can see lots of crust and just dried up goo. I have this little El Cheapo dental pick set to get that off. I'm being careful not to damage the ebonite section there, but just taking your time, slowly picking it off, speeding things up for you there as well. And then once it's happy with that, into the barrel to get some of these bits of dried up sack out of there. Now again, it's a labor of love because it does take some serious time. Just go slow. You don't want to damage these things. It's, 90 plus years old. Took the button out as well so I can get a better look in there. Just pulled out the remainders of the pressure bar. You can see that thing's just toast and corroded. I did find I had a little X-Acto to get some of the bits off, but if I took the blade out, there's a little knurling on the main body of the X-Acto blade holder, and that just fit perfectly in there to help loosen some of these bits. So you can see you got a lot more progress with that. So I found that worked out quite well, sort of like a reamer, I guess. So I just sped this up here because this again took some time, just kind of getting the bits out and then getting the pick in there and pulling it out, doing the best job I can. And it's pretty happy with the cleanliness. Now I'm just measuring the section here so I can order some parts. I got a new pressure bar and a sack. So I check the neck there for the size of sack I need, checking the length of the body, and then how much the section's going to stick in so I can figure out what size pressure bar I needed. I got a little confused, so I just ordered some extra bits here. I got everything from Anderson Pens down in the US, got it shipped. So I also got their little Micromesh pad here, a big one, 12,000 grit was added, some silicone grease, a couple things of talc for $3. I figured I might as well get some. The number 23 neck sack is what the site said I needed. I got a 62 millimeter and a 72 millimeter pressure bar. I couldn't quite figure out from my measurements which ones I needed. The cap and the body here are looking not too bad. Body's good. Cap, I end up having to apply some serious heat to separate that top cap from the main part of it. These parts here, you can see that button needs some work. The nib here, it's in pretty good condition. No major scratches and stuff, just some ink stainage. That's going to come out, it's gold, so that should be a-okay. checking out the feed here now that I got it out. That Christmas tree feed, I've never seen that before, but yeah, parts are pretty good condition. I put some stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner, not the celluloid body, but just those main bits, the metal and the ebonite, gave it a clean, and they came out pretty good. The next bits, I use a little, soft toothbrush. My wife's eyebrow brushes turned out to be quite useful. And then the Novus plastic cleaning system, I've used that on my Parker PFM for cleaning that up as well. And a bunch of Q-tips. So I thought, well, let's just get going. I got this little polishing cloth. I'm going to try that on some of the metal bits here too. So on the nib and then also on the clip, I want to see what would be better, the Novus or using this polishing cloth I have. We'll find out how it goes. So I started off with the Novus plastic cleaner system. It works well on the metal too. So I start with the number 3, then the number 2, and then you go on to the number 1 to give it a nice polish. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy with it. All the ink stains came off there, nice and shiny. That thing is, I don't know about you, I'm pretty happy with that. That's my first attempt using it. So I thought, let's try the top side of the nib with the polishing cloth. Gave it a go, and it turned out okay, but it didn't quite get it as nice. You can see here, even on, if I turn it here to the side, you can see some of the bits aren't as nice and polished. Even some of the ink or whatever goo is still on there a little bit. So I ended up ultimately using the Novus system on there as well, doing the 3, 2, 1, giving it a nice polish. And I did the same thing to the clip. Yeah, no brazing, nothing. So that clip is in very good condition. A lot of times those get worn off. I did the same thing to the feed. Started off with the 3, then the 2 and the 1 to give it a really nice polish. I haven't ever done that to a feed before, but I want to see how it looked. And then, I could have gone a little bit better with the body and maybe done some serious sanding, but it's in pretty good condition. So I thought, let's just stick with the Novus on there as well. I was pretty happy using the system on my Schaefer PFM, and I just didn't want to get too aggressive if I didn't need to. Just kind of minimal. Didn't want to damage the body, I guess. So this is a Lenline pen. So this is really handy for cleaning electrical connections, especially ones that have seen some weathering. It's got a fiberglass shaft that extends out kind of like an extendable eraser on an eraser kind of pen. And so I just use it here. It's a brass button just to get some of this main corrosion off, the oxidation that's on there. So you can see it cleans it up nicely. You can see the parts where it hasn't done it yet. So getting it off quite nice. And then what I decided to do was I tried the Novus. It didn't quite shine it up very well, but I had my Micromesh Pads here and my cleaning cloth, so I decided to give that a go. And you can see on the button here, it turned out quite well. I could go crazy and get rid of every tiny swirl, but I thought just for the button, that's good enough in my book. So now it's time to put the pen together. The clip goes on. You screw that in there. I was trying to figure out how I should align the clip. I ultimately decided to align it so the clip goes over top of one of the little vent holes that's in the cap. So you can see underneath there, the vent holes underneath. The other vent hole will be on the back side. So yeah, I think that looks quite nice. I took the liberty of adjusting the clip. It was bent out a bit, so now it's got a nice little springiness to it. It was kind of flimsy a little bit before. You can see that feed there is quite nice and shiny. I'm very happy with the nib. Look at the gloss on that. So that looks pretty good. And put that together, pop it into the section. I just want to do some trowel fitting on this stage. I've never used one of these pens before, let alone assembled it. So trying to figure out how things go. I think I'm pretty happy with where that is. The back of the feed is flush with the back of the section, and just how far down that nib is fitting in there. Because what happens is you run the risk, if it's sticking out too far, the nib can go up and hit the very top of the cap. And I noticed this nib here, when I first got it, was sticking out pretty far and the tines were bent to touch. So I'm just doing a quick measurement to make sure I have enough clearance. So I got out my vernier calipers there, checked the depth, how much I'm working with, and thought, well, let's see how it's going to sit in here. So I put the pen in, used the old fingernail as a reference mark, and I just wanted to see how much room I got to make sure, I at least got a couple millimeters, hopefully, of clearance. So I'm not going to screw the cap down and then accidentally jam up against the tines and mess it up. So that looks like I got some good clearance. And next step is putting the sack on. So I did a dry fit first. It's impossible to do this on camera, I found, so it kept popping off. I did it off camera. Got on there. I'm not happy with this sack. It's the only one I got, though. yeah, it doesn't look quite right to me, but it's all I got. And I thought, let's just give this thing a go. I really want to write with this pen, and it takes so much longer to do this and restore a pen recording than just to give it a go and not have a camera. So I put some of my homegrown shellac on there, got a nice coating, and again, trying to do this on camera for you guys, but you can watch other videos of people putting a sack on. It just took forever. I did it off camera. So got the sack onto the section. Now it's time to fit the pressure bar. It just fits down in there. That little edge you can see holds along the end there where the blind cap comes off, and you're going to press down on that pressure bar, and it's going to fill the sack. It's going to apply pressure on the sack, get the air out, and provide a vacuum. So I thought I would just kind of demonstrate this. The top of the pressure bar you push down, that's going to push against the sack, get the air out, and then when you release the pressure, it's going to suck in some ink. So now it's time to put it all together. I put a little bit of that talc on there, rubbed it in there a little bit, just get a nice little coating, nothing too much, but nicely coated. You can see I'm just not happy with how that is, but I don't have any other sacks on hand, so I figured worst case, I can order some pits and get back after it another time. Fit it in there. I'm pretty happy with that fit. It's nice and tight. Everything's sealed, so I don't feel it necessary to kind of seal the section onto the body. Now, if you go to fit the pressure bar in, it's not going to really work this way. The sack is there. You're going to try to fit the pressure bar. That's not what you want to do. So I got a little strip of plastic that I just had in the recycling bin there. Got a little piece out, cut a fine little strip. So you snake it in between. So this way it's against the sack. And then now what you do is you can slip the pressure bar in beside it. And it just fits in there so nice and easy. So you just put that strip of plastic down there. Now it allows you to fit the pressure bar in, and then you just slide it out, and now that pressure bar is in there. So that worked out quite well. Slick little trick. I forget where I saw that. Somewhere, someone else who knows what they're doing was doing a restoration video. Fitting the button on here. This will turn out to be a bit of an issue later on in the video. You'll see it's a little bit stiff, but I figured before I ink this thing up, let's give it a look and do some of my classic glam shots. Time to ink up the pen, and for this I'm going to use my Parker Quink, especially the washable blue. It's really easy to clean, it's a super safe ink and reliable. I was getting a good fill off of this. Again, the button was a little bit stiff, but I was pretty happy with the amount of ink that was getting in there. You can hear those little bubbles. There's a close-up of the nib. Now it's just simply put on the cap and you should be ready to write, but as I mentioned, there was going to be a problem. Check out the nib as I tighten it, and yeah, I'm pressing the pressure bar a little bit. So we ran into a bit of an issue there. But like I said, good thing my choice was washable blue and nothing too crazy permanent. Quick little spray with my cleaner. Off that comes. My wife won't even know I spilled a ton of ink on her desk, and this was easy to clean. So what was happening here, you'll see, is that little tab is sticking out kind of far. So when I put the button on, it's fine. But then when it's time to put on the cap, it ends up depressing the pressure bar a bit. So look away. I do not encourage you to do this. The you vintage pen folks are going to just be cringing right now, yelling at me. But I really want to write with a pen, so I thought, let's trim it just a couple millimeters off the top there. And worst case, I can always just order another pressure bar for $5 or use the other one I have. And I'm hoping now that won't stick out too far. So I give it another fill. I get some good ink in there, put the cap back on, the blind cap, and it didn't squirt ink everywhere. So here we go. It's on to writing. We got the Parker Senior size. This is a 14K, nice and wet. I mean, I tuned it myself, so I'm very happy with it. I spent a few minutes with everything, just doing some writing samples, getting used to the nib. This thing is a nail, so it's quite firm, but the flow is quite nice. It doesn't have like that butter smooth, but the feedback is sort of just right, and it keeps up. I'm really happy with this mango chutney, how it's writing, not skipping a beat. The reverse writing, again, I kind of fiddle-farted with it a little bit. It's quite nice. It's not perfect, but if you had to flip it over, it works out fairly well. I think it did pick up a little bit of a fiber there. It's got a little bit of a tooth to it, but it's definitely usable. So I hope you enjoyed watching my video. And again, this is amateur hour. I'm not a pro at this, so look elsewhere. Don't follow exactly what I did. You might end up screwing up your pen, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think, for the price I paid for this versus what these are worth, I probably like tripled my money on this thing. Happy with how everything's looking. The nib, I'm not 100% sure if that is the actual nib that goes with it, but I'm happy with how it writes anyways. Whether it's good paper like the Rhodia there or this cheaper paper here, it works well. Firm pressure, yeah, if you got to go through multiple copies or something like that, you're a firm writer, it works well. Everything I've thrown at this pen, it works exceptionally. Fits nice in the hand. Very happy with the looks, the overall fit and finish with the pen. Things like over 90 years old, and it just performs. So I'm really happy with the looks and just everything about it as well. I am going to come back to this probably at some point. If you have any advice on that, please leave it down there in the comments and instruct everyone don't do what I just did, or any tips you have for me, that would be appreciated. But it fills. It was good enough for now. I want to write with this damn pen. I couldn't wait any longer. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you learned, what not to do with restoring these pens versus what to do. But I'm happy I got this thing working. So hit subscribe, leave some comments, like as always, and we'll catch you next time.